Alright, so the next one is my assignment 4, which is the creative research biography. It's supposed to find a person, could be personal, could be professional, could be, a famous person, whatever, and write an anecdote of their life that expresses who they are. It's kind of like with Frank McCourt's Angela's Ashes, in which he never really goes into detail analyzing anybody, but he tells you stories about people so that you understand a little bit about those people. For mine, I really wanted to write about my grandfather. And to me, my grandfather isn't complete without my grandmother. Their love is just something that stands out to me so much. And so that's what I wanted to write about, was how their love story started. And it was really great. I mean, it was tough because my grandfather passed away my freshman year of college, so about 3 years ago. And since then, we haven't really talked about him just because it's such a difficult subject for my mom and my grandmother, which is understandable. But I did want to commemorate him in some way, and so this is what I did. I knew that he had been in the Air Force, so when I went home, I asked my mom questions like, if she knew where he served, she didn't, and if she could tell me a little bit more about how he and Mimi met, because, see, Papa served in Alaska. Mimi grew up in Texas. Those are pretty far. And the story is really funny. Papa was home on leave for about a week or so, and one of his buddies had this date down in Texas. I don't know how they do this, but that's how it was. And he wanted a buddy to go down. And so Papa agreed. And Papa went down to Texas, happened to be like prom weekend, and he ended up being a blind date. And they double dated to make it less awkward, but I still imagine it was quite awkward. But that's where he met Mimi. There's a picture, which I think is so funny. In her yearbook, there's a picture of the two sitting at a table at prom. And just think about it. All of these people have this yearbook of the senior prom or the junior prom, and in it is the girl that they know and her date, who nobody knows, yet they ended up getting married. Apparently there is a box of letters that they wrote each other after the date, after meeting, and they're basically love letters between Alaska and Texas, and they're somewhere around the house. Don't know where. We'll find them one day, I'm sure. But I just think that's such a great story, such a sweet story. And that's the one I told about, because without their love story starting then, I wouldn't be here. So, and I definitely, anyway. Our family's lives would have been completely different without that. And so that's what I wanted to write about. What was really neat is I had an original draft that I brought to class for the workshop. And I thought it was great. It was more expansive, I guess. It wasn't like McCourt. I wrote about several events, kind of just trying to pull them together to describe who my grandfather and grandmother were together. So I wrote about basically how they met, where they lived, what their life was like after they got married, but it was more general. And since the point was more to write an anecdote, a singular anecdote, I modified it. And I started from scratch, and I just wrote the anecdote. I wrote from their point of view of the night of the prom, of the blind date. So that's what I wrote. That's what's published. That's what you see. It all came out very quickly. Just as soon as I had changed my mind, I rewrote it, like over a weekend. It hasn't had any other eyes reviewing it because there simply wasn't time between when I wrote it and when I published it. But that's what it is. That's the finished product. And yeah, it was really exciting to write it. I doubt I'll ever show it to my grandmother, or my mom, but hopefully one day. I don't know. But it was good for me to write it, and that's what's important.